All right, let's talk about convolution. I know. It's one of those words that kind of makes your brain hurt a little, right? Especially if you've been in an engineering class. But what if I told you it's basically just fancy multiplication? Seriously, we're going to ditch the scary math for a bit and just build up a really solid gut feeling for what this thing is all about.
So to get our heads around this, we're not going to start with equations. No way. Let's start with a story. Picture this. You are running a hospital. Every single day, new patients are walking through the door. And for their illness, you have a very specific treatment plan. The big question on your mind is, how much medicine do I actually need to have on hand each day?
Okay, so let's start with a super simple case. Imagine the treatment is just one and done. Every new patient gets 3 units of medicine on the day they arrive, and that's it. Well, that's easy, right? The math is just simple multiplication. On Monday, 1 new patient comes in, they get 3 units. On Tuesday, 2 new patients, they get 6 units. No problem.
But, life isn't that simple, and diseases definitely aren't. Let's say the illness gets a little more complicated. Now the treatment plan isn't just a single dose, it's a multi-day affair. And this, my friends, is where things get really interesting.
So the new plan is this: 3 units on day 1, 2 units on day 2, and 1 unit on day 3. All of a sudden, our easy little calculation just falls apart. Think about it. On Tuesday, you've got the patient from Monday who needs their second dose, plus the 2 new patients who need their first dose. By Wednesday, oh man, you're juggling patients on day 1, day 2, and day 3 of their treatment. It's this messy overlap, and trying to keep track of it all is a total head.
But, whenever there's a messy, complicated problem like this, there's usually a clever, systematic way to solve it. And there is. This whole process, this idea of blending one list of numbers, our patients, with another list, our treatment plan, to figure out the combined effect, well, that has a name, and that name is convolution.
And that's it. That's the core idea. You just did convolution without even knowing it. It's just a formal way of adding up how a bunch of past events are affecting what's happening right now. We took our daily patients list and our treatment plan list, and we blended them together to get a totally new list, our daily medicine usage. See? It really is just fancy multiplication.
And this idea has been around for a long time. I mean, we're talking about concepts that were being kicked around back in the 1770s by guys like Laplace. What's really cool is that for a while it was called Faltung in German, which means folding, and that's actually a perfect description, as you'll see in a minute. The English name convolution didn't really stick until the 1930s.
Okay, so it helps us calculate medicine needs. Cool. But what's the big deal? Why do we care so much about this one single operation? Why is it like a cornerstone of science and engineering?
Well, the reason it's a big deal is because convolution is the magic key to understanding a special and super common type of system. They're called linear time-invariant systems, or LTI for short. Now, don't let the name scare you. Linear just means if you put in more, you get out more proportionally. Double the input, you double the output. And time-invariant means the system doesn't change over time. Its rules today are the same as its rules tomorrow. A simple guitar amplifier, for example, is a pretty good LTI system.
There's this fantastic quote that just nails the power of this idea. It perfectly explains why these systems are so special. The idea is that you don't have to test everything. You just need to find out how the system reacts to one tiny little thing.
And that one tiny thing is called an impulse. It's like a single, short poke to the system. The way the system reacts, its unique signature response to that poke, is called its impulse response. And think about our hospital story. The impulse response was the treatment plan, 3, 2, 1. It's the entire chain of events that happens because of one single input, one new patient showing up. And this is the absolute key takeaway. If you have an LTI system and you know that one simple thing, its impulse response, then you can use convolution to predict exactly how it will behave for any input you throw at it. It's amazing. It's like if you knew how one domino falls, you could predict the entire pattern of 1,000,000 dominoes no matter how you set them up.
Okay, so that's the what. But what about the how? How does this actually look? Let's get a visual for the operation itself. And this is where that great old German word, Faltung, folding, is going to click. The method people use to visualize this is called the flip and slide. It sounds simple, and it kind of is. First, you take one of your signals, let's say the impulse response, and you flip it, like a mirror image. Why flip it? Because that's how we look back in time. It lines up the past of the impulse response with the present of the input.
Then you just slide that flipped signal across the other one, the input signal. And for every single moment in time that you slide it, you multiply the parts that are overlapping and add them all up. That sum you get, that's the output at that one specific moment. It's literally what we did in our heads for the hospital.
So what you get at the end isn't just a single number. You get a whole new graph, a whole new function that shows the output for every single moment. It's a beautiful way to see how the system's character, its impulse response, acts like this sort of moving filter, shaping and blending the input as it goes along.
Okay, so since we've been calling it fancy multiplication, it probably won't surprise you that it shares some properties with regular old multiplication. And these properties, they lead to some amazing shortcuts.
First off, the order doesn't matter. It's what mathematicians call commutative. Think back to the hospital. It doesn't matter if you think of the new patients as a signal that's passing by the fixed treatment plan system, or if you think of the patients as fixed and the treatment plan is moving past them. You get the exact same answer for your daily medicine usage either way. Pretty neat, right? But now for the big one, the most powerful property of all. Because doing that whole flip and slide thing by hand can be a real pain. This property is a massive shortcut, but it's a little mind-bending. It requires us to stop looking at our signals in terms of time and instead look at them in a totally different way.
This is what's known as the convolution theorem, and it is a game changer. It basically says this: that messy, complicated flip and slide convolution we do in our normal world of time, it becomes simple, easy multiplication if you switch to the frequency domain. What's the frequency domain? Think of it like this. A tool called the Fourier transform acts like a prism for signals. It takes a complex signal and splits it into all its simple ingredients, all the low notes, the high notes, the bass, the treble. The theorem says you can just take your two signals, break them into their ingredients, multiply those ingredients together one by one, and then put them back together. It's a wild shortcut, and it's basically how all modern signal processing works. All right, we've gone from a hospital all the way to the frequency domain. That was a bit of a trip. So let's pull it all back together. At the end of the day, when you hear that word convolution, what's the one thing you should really hang on to?
It's a blending. That's it. It's a weighted smearing together of one function by another. It's how a system's personality, its impulse response, leaves its fingerprint on any signal that passes through it. It's the math of how the past accumulates to create the present. And a lot of the time, what that looks like in the real world is a kind of smoothing or blurring effect.
And because so many things in our world behave like those LTI systems, this idea is, it's everywhere. You see it all the time. That blur tool in your photo editor? That's convolution. The reverb effect that makes a singer's voice sound like it's in a giant cathedral? Yep, that's convolution too. When you see a smoothed out graph of the stock market, that's a type of convolution. And it's right at the heart of the convolutional neural networks that are driving so much of the AI revolution. It is everywhere.
So let's just end on this thought. What convolution really gives us is a framework for prediction. It tells us that if we can just figure out how something reacts to one small poke, we can potentially predict how it will react to any complex series of pokes. So think about that. If you could know the impulse response of any system in your life, the stock market, your career, a relationship, what would you choose and what would you predict? It's a pretty powerful lens to see the world through.